Hi guys, it's TinaGale with My Scrappy Ideas, and today I have a layout using the new Cocoa Vanilla Made of Awesome line. This is their new boy line, and I'm so excited to finally be able to use it. I think this company has probably moved right up there to #1 on my favorite paper lines. I love everything that they're doing. Um, so I'll tell you more about the paper line in a minute, but I started with this large background piece that had this big burst of the blue, and this is about my son. And when I think of him when he was little, and even to this day, he is just a burst of energy and just so full of life and everything. And so I thought it was fitting to use that as the whole background. And then I had the other sheet of paper that had the text on the whole background that says, "Here comes trouble, love this kid, all boy, mischief maker," and all of that. And what I did was cut 2 strips, a smaller one at the top that just fit the text, and then the bottom one was actually the top strip of the paper, so it had a little bit of text that you can't read and then the full text. And I'm following a sketch from Let's Get Sketchy. This is their week 1 sketch for July, so I'll be entering it there. And so I followed the sketch fairly closely. I don't think I really altered anything other than a little tag area embellishment. So that's how I decided on those deals, and that's just going to kind of ground my layout because everything's kind of going to be floating up at the top. And then on the sketch it had these 2 banners, and so I took the black star paper and I cut 2 strips from it, and I'm just going to flip the one over because it has this great peachy orange color, and that's just going to be my accent color. And so the color scheme on this layout is the blue, the orange, and then neutrals, which is the off-white, the black, and the gray. And I'm using everything from their line. I have the embellishments and all of that from them, and as I use them I'll tell you more about those as well. But I'm just cutting these and I'm putting them up here, and I put them like this, and then I'm going to swap them and put the orange to the outside, and I like that much better because then it just frames that photo more with that black one behind that. And also, let me disclaim here, this video is going to be a little bit longer. I've had a lot of comments and questions about more of my process and my thinking and my decision making, and wanting to see a little bit more and not cutting so much out. So I'm going to give it a try. I know most people don't like longer videos and stuff, so it's kind of a balancing act for us YouTubers to get what's our content in, but keeping it short enough that you're not getting bored and you're leaving and stuff. So I want it to be relevant. So I won't say that all of my videos will end up like this, but for this one, I'm leaving it a little bit longer. I'm leaving more of the content in, but I'm speeding part of it up a little bit quicker than normal so that you can see kind of my whole thought process on this one. Okay, so I had these border strips, and I wanted just a little bit more down there. And so I had this darker blue washi tape with the stars, and I felt like that was a really good touch. Since my color scheme's fairly simple, it's going to pull more of that text out and make that text really pop, because that's part of my, I guess you could call it subtitle. It's in my journaling. It's just telling more about this photo, because this is an older photo. This is when my son was 1 and he's 24 now, so it's quite old, and it was just a random shot during the day of him just getting into mischief and stuff. So it's not really telling a story about a particular event or a moment or anything. It's just more about just telling more about him and his personality, and how I think about him and how much joy and life he's brought to our family and stuff. So I really like doing layouts like this where they're not so momenty, if that's a word. I know that's not a word, but if you'll bear with me. I know when I first started scrapbooking, it was all about events. It was Christmas, it was birthdays, and of course my older photos, we didn't have cameras and iPhones and all of that are at our hand all the time, and so that was pretty much the only time we pulled the cameras out. So my earlier albums are a lot like that. They're very event driven. where nowadays we have our iPhones with us and we're constantly snapping just everyday moments. And I think capturing more of the personality of the people in our lives and just normal moments. I mean, how many layouts do you see of people scrapbooking about their Starbucks coffee and you know, just things like that. So I think it's really good, even in our older photos, to just grab some out that maybe like this. It's just a single random photo that doesn't have a story to tell in the photo itself, but there is a story to be told about the photo or about the subject in the photo, you know, like this and my son and just the way he was as a little one. Okay, so back to the layout. I've added all of that in, and now I'm pulling out the embellishments, and I have the wood veneers that I've pulled out and the vellum stars, and the sketch shows just some like splattering of ink and stuff between the photo and that bottom embellishment. And I do put a few little splatters there, but I really wanted to put more in. I didn't want that much dead space. I wanted something, but not too much, because I want those focal points to be on that photo and then kind of down in that bottom cluster. And so these vellum stars were perfect for that because they're transparent and it's just giving some interest and stuff between that to bridge those two pieces without being overbearing and taking away from the photo. So I'm just scattering those around. Then I had these black silhouette cuts that's been on my desk that it was just a file that I cut a bunch up and figured I could pull and use on layouts. And so this one had the star, so I thought that was perfect because this is very heavily embellished with stars. And the other two were just circles. And I decided to put them there to just pull a pop behind those clusters there, but again, not overpower the layout. And so you'll see here, I'm pulling off some stickers. I had this You're One of a Kind, and I'm going to put that down below where that star is at in the very bottom. But I was wanting something behind this photo. I've matted it with some kind of, it's a white with a gray polka dot, and that was just out of my scrap pile just to have something behind it. And I'm going to build up layers. But I was wanting like a little shelf for that photo and everything to sit on and to kind of ground it. So I pulled out the stickers with this notebook paper and the ruler because I'm thinking, well, I had black and so I could kind of pull it in again under the photo. I had this blue tab that is from the October Afternoon Saturday Morning sticker, and so I wanted to add just a little bit more of that dark blue somewhere else. And so that's how I'm deciding on those embellishments. And I've just pulled them all over there to kind of see what I have to work with. And now I'm going to go back and figure out what I want behind this photo. So I had this transparent sheet of paper, this vellum paper, that has these silver stars that I thought would be really pretty, and it would give a layer behind there. Again, without putting too much weight and too much emphasis on the papers behind. So I'm going to use it, and then I'm looking for more, and I really wanted more of the paper from this awesome line. And so I have this sheet that's the cut apart sheet, and the back side is this blue kind of striped pattern. And I wanted more blue. I have that big heavy dark blue with the washi tape at the bottom, so I really need some behind that photo. So I cut off a piece of that. I cut one of the cut apart cards that I knew that I probably wouldn't use, and so I didn't worry about wasting it because there are several cards that I want to use. So I just picked one that I didn't think I would like, or that I didn't like as much. Cut that out, and I will split that apart. Then I still wanted just a little bit more, and I felt like I needed something light, but with all of my color scheme, just to bring pops of color, but again, not too heavily. So this pattern paper here that has all of the arrows and the different colors was perfect because I'm pulling in all of those colors, but again, they're not heavy, they're not overbearing, they're not going to take away from my photo. So I just cut a small little piece of it. I'm going to tuck behind on one side, and I'm going to have that blue, and then I'm going to have that vellum. And now I'm looking back at this bottom little piece that I was thinking of, and I'm looking at it, and this is when I'm really realizing that black is really distracting because now that black is overtaking all of the other colors. you're seeing your eye is pulling into all of those little black spots. So that was going to be just a bit too much. So I'm going to end up taking it away when I finish gluing and deciding everything that I want behind this photo. And then on the back side of the arrow paper was this gray print. And so I went ahead and cut another little rectangular piece of it to put on the right hand side. And so now I'm happy with everything, and so I'm just going to start putting all of these little layers together behind my photo. When I'm gluing all of the layers down behind, again, like I've talked about before, the thing that I'm looking for is I don't want to line up all of the straight lines of the different layers. I want them offset. I don't want anything jarring or anything that's going to be a line all the way across that grabs your eye and pulls your eye along. I want to direct where the eye is going, and so that is through my photo and around in my embellishments and back again. I don't want the viewer looking at my paper. So just be aware of that if you're layering up layers of paper behind or your embellishments or whatever. Just be aware of where the lines are hitting in your composition and stuff. So now that's where I've ditched the black little, it was a ruler strip sticker, and I'm putting in this one. And again, I'm being very aware of where the lines are lining up. And so on the right hand side, I don't want it lined up with the edge of the photo or any of my layers of paper behind there. And I want the left edge, I brought it out quite a bit because I'm going to build that cluster there with that circle and part of my title and stuff. And so by having that out behind that left side of that photo, that's going to give me a background for that cluster to live in and live on. And so it's going to be easier for everything to rest on and not look kind of just floating again. So for this top cluster, I went ahead and I want that black cutout to be kind of loose. And so I just put a little bit of adhesive behind the photo and wedged it in between there, because then I have that vellum star. I chose the blue one up there along with that label tab. And then I just stapled it with my tiny stapler. And I'm going to stamp later on my layout, so I'll stamp on that tab. And then I have started scattering these little wood veneers up there, and so I'm going to adhere 3 of those little wood stars. And then I was looking for another vellum star, and I chose the gray up there because I have that big piece of orange on the tag, and so I wanted more of the gray. I already had the blue, and so there's repeating my blue, gray, and orange. And then I went ahead and adhered the sticker down at the bottom that says you're one of a kind, and put a couple of staples through it. And I've adhered all of my stars diagonally between the two. And then my title is just my wood veneer, and it's just it says hey and then boy. And so on that big orange star that I had, I took some alpha stickers, and they're from the Lily Bee alpha sheet, and just spelled out happy. So now the title is going to be Hey Happy Boy. So there was the sticker sheet I'm kind of showing you. I went ahead and I splattered with the Heidi Swapp Color Shine, and that was in the tea color because I just wanted to keep everything kind of neutral. I have these pops of blue and orange, and that's all the color that I really wanted. I didn't want to use blue splatters or black. Again, I didn't want to pull any more black in. I just wanted those little touches of black. And you'll also notice up at the top, I went ahead and tore another piece of washi and put up across the top of there, and then added that arrow wood veneer across the top of that, just because I needed to pull that dark blue up at the top too. I had that little label sticker that helped pull it up there, but I still needed just a little bit more in a pop of color. And so I did that. And then I have this stamp set, and this is from Heidi Swapp as well. This is the memory file stamps, and it had these row of stars. And so I stamped them twice at the bottom cluster, one on top and one on the bottom, and then I also stamped it underneath the word boy, and I glued my title right over the top of it, and I moved it down just a little bit before it dried too much, but I really intended on having that boy down just a little bit more and having those stars show, but I kind of goofed, and it's okay. And then I stamped it again on the top cluster. So that was another way that I could pull in the dark blue without it being too overbearing, or too noticeable. In fact, when you first look at this layout, you'll never even see those stars. It doesn't really come to your attention except for that I point them out to you. But they add a whole lot to the layout and the composition of it. And then I also stamped the word smile on that tab. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please give me some feedback if this is more to your liking in the explanations, if you enjoyed it or not. I can handle it both ways. Just love to hear your feedback. And again, I don't think I could do it on every one, but occasionally or once a week or something, I'd be more than happy to go a little bit more in depth and a little bit longer video. So again, love to hear your feedback. Visit me on my blog or on my Facebook page for more links and information, and we will see you real soon. Bye.